Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Jeff. That's my wife. This is My Wife Still Likes Me. Stop comparing your marriage to the people next door or on social media or wherever. Let's do this. Hi. How are you?
Good. Tired.
I understand. Tired is tired. Anyway, have you ever found yourself scrolling through social media, comparing yourself and your relationship to everybody else? Research shows that social media can have a negative impact on relationships by causing individuals to compare their own lives to the highlight reel of others.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're going to talk about today. Do you want to pick a question first?
It's a little dusty.
Yeah.
Let's pick from the middle. What type of puzzle are you best at?
Car parts?
That's fair. I like all puzzles.
You do.
I really do. Those stupid, fill the colored tube things, really good at. Just all like physical puzzles, any puzzle.
We're going literal. I was like, I don't know. Car parts?
I can figure
Project
out
management.
how another person ticks, but I can't figure out how I do.
True.
So, anywho.
Yeah. So it's natural for us to compare ourselves to others. It happens all the time. We do it all the time. But when it comes to marriage, it can be a dangerous habit. While it's probably normal to look at other couples and wonder about their relationship, we shouldn't always compare it, especially to the social media, the highlight reel, because we only see the good stuff.
Absolutely. I have always tried purposely to stay away from that because of the fact, growing up, I'm the oldest of four. I come from a good sized family. And it always drove me nuts when it was like, why don't you do fill in the blank, like fill in the blank? And it just drove me crazy. And someone said, don't compare fish in the sea to birds in the air. And that one really struck me. And I know, I'm sure everybody has heard that before, but
No.
Really?
No.
Yeah. I've seen expanded on that over the years, but it's, why would you measure the intelligence of someone, against something that they're not good at? So is a fish a good fish because he swims well, or because is he bad at being a bird because he can't fly? So that has always really just stuck with me of, am I good at being a wife because I'm your wife, or am I good at being a wife because I'm better than, the Smiths across the street?
I got you. That's, yeah. Judge your character based on your context, not on somebody else's.
100%.
Absolutely. Cool. I like that. Because the idea is when we compare our marriage to others, we're probably going to be disappointed.
Well, yeah. And how many times have we talked about it? We've put the work in. We've had 17 amazing years. Some were better than others. Our first year of marriage was rough, but we put the work in. And I don't ever want someone to compare where we are at to where they are at, because they might be 1 year in on their journey of putting the work in.
Yeah.
And that's not to say you've only been married for a year, but sometimes it takes a while for you both to get on the same page. And I mean, it took us a while to get on the same page. So we've had many conversations of get it together.
Yeah.
Usually filled by some rude comments, but
Not rude, but relevant.
Well, no. We joke back and forth and we call each other rude things.
Oh, yes. And I was like, but not Not in the like fighting, arguing, being
No.
loud context. It's the, hey,
Loving.
let's figure this out. Comparing marriages can lead to feelings of inadequacy, jealousy, and resentment, all of which are not good.
Absolutely.
So we kind of hinted at this. Instead of comparing our marriages to others, focus on what makes your relationship unique. Spend time with your partner, communicate openly and honestly, and work together to build a strong foundation. And remember that every relationship has challenges, right? How you work through those challenges matters.
Yeah.
So I like to think through like what makes our marriage unique. Like, we said this a couple of episodes a year ago that we've never been married in this moment, in this context, right now. Like, nobody has done this version of us before. So how do we manage this, right? And we do that with strategy meetings and date nights. And I saw a couple of new ideas that we're going to talk about of family meetings and almost like business meetings to what's happening this week, what's going on next week, how can we do this stuff? Is there any like addressing the issues in corporate world? We call it the crucial conversations, the conversations you don't want to have. Have them and see what happens and work through it, but have them respectfully.
Well, yeah. If you're going into a crucial conversation with an agenda of sticking it to your partner, then it's doomed to fail.
Yeah.
And I mean, crucial conversations is not a new topic. It's definitely taught in the business world, but when you talk about a relationship, I think it's important to understand. Oops, sorry. If you heard that, the children are playing. It's not a new concept in the fact that like we've talked about it, and as you kind of peel back the layers on what is a crucial conversation, you want to go into it with the topics that you want to discuss. So, for example, like if you want your partner to, I'm trying to think of some of the silly things, like if the laundry is a sticking point for you, go into it with facts. And that's, I think, something that a lot of people struggle with is they go into it with emotions.
Oh, yeah.
Go into it with the facts. The laundry needs to be done regularly. This is how I feel because you constantly
Not when I
leave
run
your...
out of underwear.
Yeah. But, you know, my sticking point is the dishes. And I know everybody is different. Like for me, whatever, if the laundry doesn't get folded in, 7 to 10 business years, it's fine. It's not a sticking point for me. Airing our dirty laundry, literally. But for me, like I need the dishes and the sink to be done. And it took us a while to get to that point where you understood that. And it was many conversations. And there was one time where you had a crucial conversation with me where your needs just weren't being met. And I had to have that conversation. Thankfully, there was no emotion to it. But it was, I understand where you're coming from, but you're not understanding where I'm coming from. Sure. And so it was a really good conversation that we eventually got to that we're partners. And at the time we were both working full time and I was taking care of most of the household needs. And so that once or twice a week when I was just empty, had nothing more to give. And then there was dishes in the sink and you wanted to do other fun things to clear your mind. And it just wasn't happening because I had nothing left to give. That was a clicking point. And it has, as silly as it sounds, that was a shifting point in our marriage.
The dishwasher is running as we speak.
Absolutely. Cheers to that.
Yes. Come to it with facts. Leave the emotions out of it and get to the issue and how to solve it.
Now, I don't, when we have these conversations with our spouse, don't come into it like emotions are going to bleed into it, but you need to stick to the fact of this is how it makes me feel. And sometimes when you're coming to a conversation like that, it's important to say, this is how it makes me feel, or this is how it appears to me. So you're not attacking.
Yes. the emotions are valid.
Yes.
Don't bring extra emotions into the conversation.
Absolutely.
The emotions, I'm sorry, you're right. The emotion is valid. This is how I feel.
Yes.
But don't attack the other person and be
Absolutely.
grumpy about it. Like, hey,
you didn't do the dishes.
we decided a long time ago yelling and screaming doesn't accomplish anything. So we approach everything as a conversation. Be like, hey, you got a couple minutes to talk about this.
Yeah. And, if you are coming into a crucial conversation, like for you, I need to level my emotions out before I have a crucial conversation with you, because you personally pick up on my emotions very well, and you can tell when I'm feeling emotional. But I also understand, and we've had conversations about this, I need to have that almost marital pause where I need to regulate my emotions. I need to come to terms with where I'm at, because I ugly cry. It's not pretty. It's a thing. But I can't express myself when I'm in the middle of that. It doesn't happen often, but if everything has just built up to the point where I am losing my marbles, I need to pause, and I need to walk away, lock myself in my room or our room. You're welcome there too sometimes. But we've come to the point where you understand that I'm not running away from the conversation.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Setting up those boundaries with your spouse is really important.
Cool. Yes.
We're unpacking stuff today.
We are. I was just thinking through, like we talked about, comparing to other relationships can lead to inadequacy, jealousy, and resentment. Not only on ourselves, but say you're sitting there scrolling through social media and see that so-and-so's whole family is out doing this whole thing, and so their marriage must be awesome because they're out doing something. And then you share that with your spouse. Now they feel like they're not good enough.
Yes.
That can be detrimental to a relationship.
Yeah.
And then, so both sides of that, the person viewing the social media and saying, oh, look what they're doing, also feels inadequate. But then so does your spouse. And like, it's hard to have the conversations because it becomes habit, right? You look at this and then the next day you see somebody else, because our phones are smart and you see things and then they start to show you more things. And then you got a whole Pinterest board about how the whole rest of the world's marriages are better than yours.
Right.
Meanwhile, your husband's sitting back there thinking like, I'm working 80 hours a week and it's not good enough.
Yeah. And I think that's where you really have to shift that narrative. Because what you may not be seeing is that family, that might be that last ditch effort to try and save the marriage before it leads to, the dreaded D word that we don't speak about in this house. But we don't know what's going on behind there. You may not know that maybe one of the parents or someone recently had a family member pass away, and so they got an inheritance, and that's why they're taking the vacation. Or it could be that someone has been busting their butt and working 80 hours, and they got a bonus because of the project that they finished or whatever. We don't see the events that go up to that.
Ours, like we just did a trip, and it was the only 3 days this year all 5 of us had off together.
Right.
Right. And just thinking while we're talking about it, when we're going to get into this later on in a future episode, but if that's like, if you're catch yourself looking at somebody else's relationship and saying, oh, that must be nice. Well, stop saying that must be nice and set goals. Right?
This is why I love you.
And I was sitting there thinking, I was like, comparing can lead to inadequacy, which then turns into jealousy of being jealous of that other couple. And then resentment turns into, my relationship's not good enough. This isn't good enough. Have the crucial conversation and then reevaluate your goals.
Yeah.
If you see something you like to do, like I have a stack of stuff that I have to do this week.
Right.
Not just in December or January, but set your goals. Like, oh, they went and they did a hike at Horseshoe Bend. That would be really cool. Or, oh, that must be nice. Well, it is nice. Go do it. Figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a big piece of it is living within your budget.
True.
So, you know, you don't have to be the family that goes to Disneyland every year. I said it. I understand. But, well, most people can't. But they're living outside of their means. And then it causes them to have to work all this overtime and busting their backs to be able to be that family. But there's other cool things. And there are so many places. I just found one last night and I was showing our son in Tennessee, of all places. They have this, it's essentially a theme park. But it's got...
You want to go to Dollywood?
No. It's... okay, I got to remember what it's called. I want to say it was Skyrim Treetop Path or something like that. And it's essentially a bunch of tree houses, and they built bridges across. So you can just walk through the forest in the sky. And it's super cool. But there's these hidden gems all over the place. You know, we live near the Grand Canyon. We just took the kids to Zion, and, you know, pick your favorite hotel chain.
Sure. Yeah.
Build up points. I mean, there's different ways to accomplish the same goal.
It's not where we're going with this one, but I saw a TikTok that said, pull out a map and draw a circle 3 hours of driving around your house and start picking out all of the national parks or all the activities or all of the things that are in your town to go do, and just budget. Yeah. I mean, you're seeing highlight reels, and so not every single day is like that. Yeah.
And I think also remembering, like, when you see those people on Facebook, can we switch that in our mind off of jealousy and let's live vicariously through people? You know, my sister just took an amazing trip to Fiji, a once in a lifetime trip. Yeah. And, you know, so cool. We could totally sit here and be jealous and count the ways that we have to do better and bust our butts to get to that point. Or we can just be proud of what my sister and brother-in-law were able to accomplish. Can we be happy for other people without okay. The whole point of this podcast is to change the narrative.
Yes.
But can we push ourselves to think outside of the woe is me? And I think that's a big problem that we have as a people anymore, is everything has to be woe is me instead of get on with your bad self. You know, you enjoy that family vacation and steal ideas for your budgeting. You know, if you want to take that trip to Fiji, sit down with your spouse and set up
Figure it out.
Yeah. Now, on the flip side, I do this all the time. Sometimes I see people who are struggling with something and I have to tell myself, I'm like, you know what? I'm not alone. When I see those parents with the kids throwing a temper tantrum in the middle of the grocery store, I literally will walk up to people and I'm like, it gets better. I promise.
Well, I tell people that all the time.
I walked up to a mom in a grocery store, and ever since this interaction, I always do this. She had 2 little girls, twin girls, and they probably were a year and a half, just losing their minds. And it's so easy to just sit there and judge. And I'm like, how many times have I been walking through the grocery store with my children and they are overstimulated, understimulated, just over it, didn't have a nap, fill in the blank, and they just lose it. And I tapped that mother on the shoulder and I said, hey, Mom, it gets better. And she, no joke, started sobbing in the middle of the grocery store. And she's like, what? And I was like, you're doing good. I was like, I have twin girls and I think at the time they were 5. I was like, it gets better. I promise. You're doing a good job. And she just started sobbing and she's like, I needed to hear that. So, you know, can we be that person for our friends? Can we be that light in the darkness? 'Cause it's hard.
Yeah. Right.
Anyways, Total sidetrack.
Oh, no, I do that too. I have people all the time. You're passing people in a doorway, and it's a dad that's got a car seat in each arm. I'm like, it gets better.
Yeah.
I talk to everybody though.
You do. You make friends with everybody.
Yes. So, no relationship is perfect.
No.
Comparing your marriage to others generally only leads to negative things. Mm-hmm. Focus on your own relationship. Communicate with your partner about your goals and work together to build a strong and healthy foundation, and go do those things or something like those things.
And I think, to kind of close this out, because I think we're almost done with this, but thinking about if you are going to set a goal and if you want to be that family that goes to Disneyland every year or whatever that thing is, right? But that's the thing is you got to be willing to put in the work. Like if you want to be able to have all these big grandiose things and
work hard, play hard is not cliche.
It is not. But like, what are you sacrificing? Are you putting in that overtime? Are you going to that not so glamorous job that pays a little better than where you're at so that you can have those, special things? Are you sacrificing for the betterment of your family? And I think that's something that we forget about so often.
No. Yes, something we forget about often. I don't like the word sacrifice. It is.
I know. I just don't have a better word.
Compromise. That's what I use.
Can we be strategic?
Putting off now for later. Strategic, yes. Yeah. I like that one.
Can we be more strategic in our planning? And, when we first got married, there was points where you had 3 jobs and I had 1 or 2, just to make sure that the ends met. And there was one point in our marriage, when we had first had our son, we had to seriously sit down and rethink our strategy on how we were going to live because just our jobs just weren't cutting it. And so you ended up, compromising, and we said that I would rather you be at home for the special moments when our kids got older. And at the time we'd only had 1. So you went on the road and you were long haul truck driving. And, up until the first year, up until right after we had the girls, you were, driving 2 hours at a not so glamorous job. And I mean, they treated you well.
2 hours to get to the not so glamorous job.
Yes. And then 2 hours back in the dead of night, sometimes you were working, cause you moved to an administrative park, cause obviously truck drivers have rules and regulations, but you were driving to the logistical side or whatever you were doing. Yep. I forget what you were called, but, you were doing admin work, office job. And so you were working 4 12-hour days. It was brutal. And so, but our kids were young and we busted our butt. We paid off our debt and got ourselves in a better place so that after our daughters were born, we were able to buy a house. And I think that's a huge thing that people forget is you're gonna have to strategize in order to get to your goals. And also during that time, you were working on your degree. So we didn't have the big vacations, any PTO was spent for me going to take the kid to the doctor's office or, whatever had to be done. And so there was definitely a lot of compromise, but there was also a lot of sacrificing to make sure that we set up our future. And so I think, it's important to shout out, like, it's not too late. I took a small break from school.
Never too late.
I'm almost 40 and I hate saying that out loud. I know, but
I'm a year ahead of you.
I know.
And I'm
closer.
Yeah.
But I mean, realistically, like in a marriage, you need to set those goals and what are you willing to strategically drop? Like, is having Netflix and Disney Plus and Prime and
excuse me.
all of those
We
things.
just did all that. We got rid of a bunch of stuff.
But in order to set yourself up for the life you want, sometimes you have to give that up. And I know we just went through and dropped a bunch of stuff, and we planned out our next year, and we're not going to be taking a bunch of big trips this year because we're trying to set ourselves up for the future. And I think it's important every couple of years to realign those goals.
Yeah.
So anyways, I feel like we
Date
went way
night,
over time.
strategy meeting. We got plenty of time. Figure it out. Set goals. Have the conversation. If you catch yourself comparing your marriage to somebody else's, stop and address why. Are you jealous of what they're doing? Is it something you want to do? And then go to your spouse and say, hey, this is how I feel. And if it's a collective goal, figure out how to achieve it.
And on the spouse's end, because it can be either one.
Yeah.
It could be the ladies or the men. It really doesn't matter. But thinking about if your spouse is the one bringing you the negative narrative, be the one to change that.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be on just one end. You know, you can pipe up and say, okay, is this something that we need to work towards? Or are you showing me this because you're excited for them? And sometimes calling out, because we've had those moments. Are you venting or do you need to fix it? Same concept.
Yes.
So
I like that one. And free bonus one. This may be a whole nother show all in itself, but you see something on social media that you want to do because you discovered that you're jealous of that thing. And then you go do it and find out you don't like it. That's okay.
Oh my gosh,
We've
yes, that's
been
okay.
on trips and done things that I don't need to go back. It's okay.
Right? Yeah.
Go figure out what it is you guys like to do.
Yeah.
Or one of you likes it and the other one doesn't. Do both.
If you're going to be compromising, and, you know, if I take you were, okay, true story. You are not a huge fan of Disney.
No.
And I will say, yes, it is over commercialized. It's overhyped. I 100% agree with you.
The park was cool.
Hold on. You're getting ahead. You're spilling the end. We told you that we were going and planned this whole trip, and you were not a fan. You were not excited to go.
I found a bunch of ways not to go.
Oh, yes, you did. You tried to find every excuse. However, you didn't do it in front of the children. And I felt so, like, for me, I appreciated that so much because I didn't want your grumpiness, because it costs a lot. We know this. But I didn't want that grumpiness to rub off on them and ruin that experience.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
No.
I will say...
Because I don't want to go doesn't mean they don't want to go.
Exactly. But I will remember the moment where you were all in. We got to Disney and we stayed at the Disneyland Resort, which I highly recommend.
Yeah.
Anyways, you had this moment of you're like, okay, this may not be my favorite thing, but I can get down with this. And you started trying to pick out those little things that you were like, okay, this is kind of cool. And when we got to the gate of the hotel, the guy talking to us, is this your first time? And genuinely engaging. And he saw the kids in the back and he's like, roll down your window. And he starts talking to them. And you looked at me and you're like, okay, this is worth it. And he even said, I'm calling Mickey Mouse. He's ready. And not that I'm saying that everybody has to go to Disney. I'm not. But sometimes when you try something new that maybe you're not super fond of, finding those little moments of appreciation can make it so much better for your spouse. Because, you know, that made my trip so much better. Because there was a point where I was holding my breath. I'm like, I'm just going to leave him in the hotel room. There was one point where I'm like, does he really need to come? Because you were being such a grumpy butt about it. But you did start finally shifting and getting excited and allowing us to enjoy that moment. And, you know, if you've got to go to Monster Jam was not my favorite, but I went, and I did enjoy having, and we had a lot of fun. But at the end of the day, we shared that common goal. We're going as a family to try something new. Am I ever going to go back to Monster Jam? Probably not. But
can I tell you a secret?
You want to go again?
No, I don't like Monster Jam.
No. You've been twice with the kids.
David likes Monster Jam.
Okay. Yeah, our kids like it.
Our children, yeah, no, it's cool.
It is cool.
I don't need to sit there for 4
Okay.
hours.
But same concept. Hey, not everybody likes Disney, so it's not always the best example. But, Monster Jam is a less expensive choice. So, if you hate going to the park or hate hiking, can you make a compromise? Can you, think about your spouse for a moment and, live into something that they like to do. And it's not going to be every time. You don't have to go to every craft fair with me. But if it's something that I ask you to do, I know that you will do it.
Yeah. All right.
Now we're overtime.
Probably. Figure it out. Sit down and talk with each other. Communication is a great foundation. Stop comparing yourself to the highlight reel of others. As always, the information provided today that we talk about is because we're funny, or at least I think we're funny, is for entertainment.
I'm funny.
It is not a substitute for professional advice. As always, if you feel like there is a deeper issue or something you need to figure out, please seek professional help. We are not it.
No.
There are plenty of qualified professional marriage counselors and therapists out there. Follow us on the socials at My Wife Still Likes Me, website at mywifestilllikesme.com. Let us know how you feel about commenting about comparing yourself to others and what you have discovered happens. See ya.